Father in heaven, we thank you for this opportunity we have today to come together and to talk with our elected officials and to talk with one another. We ask that we will be decent and in order, that we will not, God, turn this place upside down with a lot of riotous talking, but get some real work done so that we can build this community, build this city to the place that you would want it to be. Thank you, God, for everyone who is here and everything that we will do. It is in your name that we do pray. Amen.
My name is Tyrone Garden. I am a lifelong member of this community. And as you read on your program in the small print in the top left, it says Deep Too Strong presents. So I'm tasked to give the purpose of this event, us gathering today. But let me first explain what Deep Too Strong is. Deep Too Strong is just a group of community members that come together and meet monthly, talk about things that's going on in the community. And it's an organization, a group that we want everyone in this room to be a part of. At the end of this event, Pastor Jones will come and give you more information about D2 Strong. But in the name, D2 Strong, it's not just about District 2, but that's what we're starting with. And we want to make D2 strong, make Precinct 4 strong, make District 120 strong, make NAACP stronger, and everybody else where African Americans are represented stronger and stronger and stronger. With that being said, that's our purpose of this event. As you read the title, the African American Leadership Accountability Summit. For some people, the word accountability may be a bad word, but accountability should be the word for all of us. When we elect our leaders, when we appoint our leaders, there has to be a level of accountability. It starts with being able to ask them the difficult questions and holding them accountable for what they respond to those questions. So this is going to be the first event of many that we're going to have the opportunity to engage our leaders on a personal level and ask them those questions that need to be answered.
Miss Tuesday Night is here. She was recently named the president and CEO of SAGE, San Antonio Growth on the East Side, and has 15 years of nonprofit experience working for companies such as FedEx, the YMCA, and most recently with the San Antonio Chamber of Commerce. She has developed into a dynamic, forward-thinking leader. She holds her BA from Tennessee State University and an MBA from Texas A&M International. She's fluent in Spanish, and her main responsibilities are to advocate for the citizens and businesses of the East Side and champion small business development. Barbara Gervin Hawkins. She is the state representative for Texas 120th House District, which includes parts of San Antonio and Commerce, encompasses Windcrest and Kirby. A leader in her community since 1981, she is a passionate educator, businesswoman, and brings these skills with her to the Texas House. Before she was elected to the Texas House, she served as zoning commissioner. She served on numerous boards, and the San Antonio Chamber of Commerce, Rotary International, the Ella Austin Community Center, and the Casey Family Program for Homeless Youth. Dr. Gregory Hudspeth is currently an associate professor of political science at St. Philip's College in San Antonio. He earned his BA in government from Houston-Tillotson College in Austin, Texas, his MA in political science from St. Mary's University, and his PhD in leadership studies from Our Lady of the Lake University. The NAACP is in the DNA of Gregory Hudspeth, as his father, Charles Hudspeth Jr., served as the president of NAACP in the 1970s and 80s. Dr. Hudspeth is the immediate past chair of the Housing Committee, and in November 2018, he was elected as our president of our local branch of NAACP. Tommy Coward Jr. was born and raised in San Antonio, Texas. He earned his bachelor's degree from Tufts University. He was elected the Bexar County Precinct 4 Commissioner in 2015. He is one of 5 chief executives of county government. He is the youngest and first African-American county commissioner in Bexar County. He represents over 500,000 residents in Precinct 4, and he has distinguished himself by building and developing areas in the county that have been historically neglected, ushering a rebirth for Precinct 4 residents. Christopher Steele, he's a Division Fire Chief with the San Antonio Fire Department. and currently serves as the president of the San Antonio Professional Firefighters Association. He has been on the fire department for 33 years and rose to the rank of chief quickly. He has been a chief since the year 2000 and president since the year 2004. He has served most of his career on the east side of San Antonio. He is a lifelong resident of City Council District 2 and went to elementary, middle school, and high school on the northeast side. Wasim Ali, class of 1994, Sam Houston High School. Houston Tillotson, class of 2000, president and CEO of the publishing company, the parent company of the San Antonio Observer, San Antonio Register, The Times, Entertainment Weekly, Inquirer, El Stars News, and the Waco Messenger. Mayor Mary Dennis, one of our moderators, has received numerous awards, but her most noteworthy accomplishment is being chosen to serve as the mayor for the city of Live Oak in the June 12, 2010 runoff. She is the first African American to serve in this capacity. She is known as Little Mary, the daughter of Mary Wyatt. She is who was the former owner of Flowers by Mary. She is a Sam Houston High School graduate. She is passionate about the education and safety of our children, and she is a great role model to us all. Our next moderator, Pastor Michael Steve Brown. He is the proud pastor of the True Vision Church in San Antonio, and it continues to grow, and they now have 2 campuses. He pastors the True Vision Church with his wife by his side, the former Joy Denise Cyrus of Charleston, West Virginia. They have been blessed with 2 children, Michael and Angelo. He serves faithfully as the Baptist Ministry Union of San Antonio, and the vicinity is the active dean of the Citywide Institute. Ladies and gentlemen, we are so excited and so privileged to have a fine panel and esteemed moderators. Please welcome our panel and moderators for the African American Leadership Accountability Summit.
As it relates to African American leadership in the city, D2, and beyond. I am glad to be here to serve as one of your moderators. We're going to allow 90 seconds for each of the panelists, or they don't have to take all 90 seconds. They could be less than that, to just state, in a sense, another introduction, their name, if you will, their agency or office or organization, title, their length of time in that position, their base, who they serve, or the level of jurisdiction of the city, county, state, and the scope of their authority, and of the entity that they serve, and the scope of authority in their particular role. So we can start, I guess, from my left to right. Brother Wasim, you're right here, we'll let you go. Wait for the microphone as it's coming to you. Brother Tyler's going to handle that.
I'd like to start off by saying I really appreciate the opportunity to be in the presence of such fine individuals as we have here today. I really thank everybody for coming out today to support this. It says a lot about our community when we can get people to come out and actually discuss certain things that affect all of us. The state of Black America right now, and blacks in San Antonio, we're in a dire state. I had planned on touching upon the new diversity study that just came out. I don't know if anybody's familiar with it, but it has some very stark news for us as African Americans. To give you an example, I got it right here on my phone. But to give you an example, African American males in San Antonio are the least economically mobile group in San Antonio. That means that we're not going anywhere as African Americans. At some point in time, we all have to collectively come together and discuss those issues. The moderator here, I'm sorry, he did mention, who do I serve? Well, I serve all of you. You know, one of the things that we say at the Observer is we have an open door policy. Anybody that has any, this is a community's paper. Anybody that has any suggestions, criticisms, whatever the case may be, please, we have an open door policy. Reach out to us and let us know what your concerns are. Thank you again for coming.
And so just to give you an idea of that footprint, think of District 120 serving 180,000 people. It starts with the Elmo Dome in south of, or east of 37, come around to 10, where Foster Road, it encompasses Kirby, and it comes up 35, where, there's a piece of Converse all around to Tupperwine, and the back again 35. This will give you an idea of the footprint. This is my second session. I'm real excited about it. It will end at the end of next year, and I'll be running for re-election for next session. My constituency base is the District 120, but also the state of Texas. One of the things as a state rep, our jurisdiction is broader than the city council. So the idea is everything that I do must impact everybody in the state of Texas, not just San Antonio or not just my footprint. And so think of it in a way that the federal government is, I call them great grandpa, the state is grandpa, and then the city or the local municipality, city and county is your dad. And so that's kind of how it goes. And the scope of authority is that we make rules and regulations. I'm proud to serve as your state rep, and hopefully we get into some of that conversation. Thank you.
My name is Tuesday Knight. I'm the president and CEO of SAGE, San Antonio for Growth on the East Side. I've been in the position since December. It's interesting going from my position before. I was at the San Antonio Chamber of Commerce, where we focused on business and living conditions and all of that on the entire part of San Antonio. Now I focus on just the east side. Specifically, our organization focuses on just 22 miles, so it's a little deceiving in saying San Antonio for Growth on the east side because it's only 22 square miles, but we all know that the east side is larger than that designation, so we're working on changing that demographic as well. Our constituency is, again, just that 22 square miles, so it's about 90,000 people on that, so a little bit smaller than the reps. Our level of jurisdiction is, again, as I mentioned, and what we work on specifically are issues that are affecting the east side. So specifically, our last event we had, it was targeting public safety. The one before that was about the mayor and what's happening with the city of San Antonio directly on the east side. And our next one that we have coming up on Saturday is regarding housing. We all know that affordable housing is an issue, and so that's our next focus area. Thank you again for having me.
I am Christopher Steele. I'm with the San Antonio Fire Department, and I have been in this community of District 2 most of my career. I served as a captain right down from St. Phillips. I was a lieutenant right outside of Fort Sam. You know, District 2 is near and dear to my heart, but this is about the African American leadership and things related to that. And so I've been a chief since the year 2000, which is 19 years. I used to run the EMS division for the city of San Antonio. And I've also been president and elected president for 15 years now. My constituency is people, it's citizens, even the people who are tourists that come here. My issues are safety. So we can talk about a lot of other things, but if you're not safe in this city, then nothing else counts and nothing else matters. And my other issue is voting, because voting has more power than the dollars. So that's what you'll hear me always focusing on, and that's within the scope of our organization as the San Antonio Professional Firefighters Association and what we do. So thank you, and I look forward to continuing all of this.
My name is Gregory Hudspeth, and I am the president of the San Antonio branch NAACP. And we are a membership organization, and that is we function off of memberships, and we are countywide. So, you know, I didn't bring any applications with me tonight, but if you're not a member of the NAACP, we want to take care of that. We invite you to join us. We are a civil rights advocacy group. So, stating that we're not a political party, we do not engage in political endorsements, we are not we're not an educational group. However, we do educate the votes. And we don't tell people how to vote, but we insist and we provide information so that individuals can make independent decisions and vote in their best interest. And so we will continue to do that with regards to spreading information and trying to get individuals active in our community. As I said, our community is county-wide.
It's great to see everyone, and thank you for the honor of being your servant at Bexar County. I am a county commissioner for Precinct 4. We are like local governors. We implement the laws of the Texas legislature locally. We oversee homeland security, the system of justice. We oversee the system of healthcare, mental health care, flood control. We oversee infrastructure primarily in areas that are not in a city, unincorporated Bexar County. For those individuals, I am their mayor. I oversee over 500,000, about 530,000 constituents, stretching from IH-10 West at Hildebrand, near Temple Bethel and Beacon Hill, Alta Vista area, all of downtown except about 5% of it.
Mayor Dennis and I understand that you're not here to hear our voices necessarily. You're here to hear from the panel, and we're also here to hear from you. So here's how the format is going to go. For about an hour, we'll have questions, pre-scripted questions that were given to us that we'll ask these moderators, and they will share before us with you. And then after that, we'll have about 30 or so minutes for questions from the audience back to them. Our job is to moderate, keep us moving, and hopefully keep us fair and on time and that kind of thing.
Good evening, everyone. We certainly are very blessed to have a great panel here with us today, so we should be able to get a lot of good conversation and questions and answers done this evening. The panelists were given these questions, so I will just kind of put this first one out here, which has to do with community engagement. And so I know not each panelist will be able to answer each question, but where you feel that you could contribute to the conversation, please feel free to do so. And as far as community engagement is concerned, what does your office do in particular to engage the community? Emails, meetings, follow-up phone calls, and such. And the other question as part of that is, how do you think we as leaders can work together better to serve our community? So my question to the panelists is, what does your office do to engage the community in efforts that you have or programs that you have, and how can we as leaders work together to be more effective in being making our community a better place?
Community engagement, obviously, being a newspaper, that's essentially what we do. Having an open door policy, having our ears to the streets, being cognizant of the concerns that face this community every single day is one of the main things that we look at in terms of engaging our community. I think it's important, again, for open dialogue. You know, a lot of times, you know, things these days have become so tribalized. You know, we've gotten away from objective truth. And I think that sometimes when we get around people who just think like us and act like us and speak like us, we lose a different perspective on what it is that we try to get done. And our goal at the newspaper is to try to carry a different voice and a different perception from everybody. You know, I find it odd at times when we get certain criticisms and I offer, well, hey, why don't you put your perspective in the paper so that we have two different perspectives. Nobody ever takes me up on that. And I think that's important for community engagement, that we hear all sides from everybody. Thank you.
So for me, you know, engaging the community every way possible that I can. And so having meetings at my office, sending emails, making sure that my staff go to neighborhood association meetings and engage participation by myself, and if I'm not available, my staff. And to me, the way my office can partner with the community more and continue is to be that advocate. Where the community has some concerns, I'd love for my office to be used to resolve some of the things, and we have done that. There was a family that had some issues with the retirement center, with a teacher's retirement, and wasn't able to get benefits for their sister. It was, 90 days, we resolved it in 4 hours. There was a gentleman in jail we had to work with to get some things done. I go on and on a list of things that we've done, and we'll continue to do that. So when we say that Black leaders don't work together Time is an issue, schedules is an issue, status quo is an issue, and also hearing your voices, like tonight, of how we can continue to work together and how you help us and shepherd us to do it and make the time work for us. So we need you to help us understand the importance of continued dialogue and talking together. Thank you.
My organization is only community engagement. It is specifically created so that we can provide the services that need to have happen. So as I mentioned, housing, as I mentioned, economic development, as I mentioned, workforce and education, we partner with all of those entities on the east side. We consider ourselves, and it's in our motto, is that we are a collective impact agency. We can't do the work that's happening. We don't build homes. We don't teach in schools, and we don't have economic development in our office, but we do. We have the opportunity for people in our community to come in and get grant support, office support. We have an accountant who is my CFO that you can come in and get assistance from. Our doors open for the community. We have a conference room so that people can come have meetings there, and we continuously work with those partners to make sure that that work is happening. So continuously with community engagement, that's what we continue to do. As I said, again, with the housing, that's affecting our community every single day.
This question, it's outside of the scope of when you're having your worst day of your life, you call 911, we are there and we're engaging the community. But outside of that, we have many and varied programs. You can just contact us. We install smoke detectors for free during the hot months of the summer. We give fans. We support most charities. We do the work there and then donate the money that's necessary for those charities. We get involved in school demonstrations and teaching kids stop, drop, and roll, things like that. If a senior has access issues, we'll build a ramp so that you can take a wheelchair in and out. All kinds of things that are benefiting the public. And so all you have to do, I would say call 911, don't do that. But there's a non-emergency number. We also have a number as well, or any firefighter that you see, or email, and we will respond, because the number one thing that we do is take care of the customer, and that is you.
It's not what we do individually, it's what we do collectively. And those committees will serve to engage in many things, from dealing with housing issues, dealing with civil rights issues, dealing with legal rights issues, dealing with women's issues, etc. And so what we do is we ask folks to come in and meet with us and identify any challenges that they're having. And then we will attempt to aid them in addressing those challenges. Our theme for our national convention in Detroit, Michigan this summer was "When we fight, we win." And the idea there is when we fight collectively, not when we fight among each other. And so one of the things we try to do is ensure that everyone's working together. We do not care who gets credit for it. No interest in getting credit for it. What we're interested in is the product at the end of the day. I would hasten to point out, we don't have any permanent friends, or we don't have any permanent enemies. We have permanent issues. And those permanent issues are civil rights issues, and ensuring that there's equity, there's diversity, and that people are treated fairly. Other than that, we don't do anything.
So I personally do about 2,000 to 3,000 meetings a year, and have a very open door policy. It's difficult sometimes because some folks think the scope of my work is the size of a city council person, but my precinct is bigger than cities like Milwaukee, so it's more like a big city mayor. But I do my best to try and reach out and meet with almost everybody who makes a request. It may take a little bit, but we definitely try. And Dr. Bashar Ahmed, who's in the back, he is my Director of Neighborhood and Community Engagement, so we do go to neighborhood meetings. I consider the neighborhood associations really my boss, because you are the experts in the community, and so when the neighborhood associations ask me to be there, groups like this ask me to be there, I am there if my schedule isn't occupied with something else. We do have apps that folks can access. Of course, we have our phone number and our email on the website for the county. We do have boards that you can serve on within Bexar County, and those range from university health system to historical society. It's quite broad in terms of the amount of boards.
Within your office or your organization, are there policies in place to protect people of color as well as women? Within your office or organization, are there policies in place to protect people of color as well as women?
I have led the court along with Judge Rosie Gonzalez and a number of the members of the Bexar County Judiciary in carving out new funds for domestic violence. It has been sadly a huge stain on San Antonio and Bexar County to have the worst domestic violence and child abuse. And so we are moving forward new best practices in that arena. But I've also done things when folks call me about their family members in justice situations, like the two young girls who were at the Whataburger on FM 78 when a deputy sheriff arrested them because they didn't move fast enough. I ensured that they were out of jail. I paid personally for the expungement of their records because those two high schoolers wanted to be nurses and lawyer, and I didn't want, because a law enforcement officer had a bad day, for that to be a strike on their progress. So there are things that I do individually for the community when you call upon me, and sometimes we do it in the quiet, and people don't even know it, James Meyer. So there are many things that we do for social justice. That's how I began my career in human rights.
We recently had an incident at River Center Mall where an African American was arrested for lottery. And when he was asked, he asked the police officer why was he being arrested. And the police officer informed him that he needed to move and get out of the building. And he said, well, I don't want to do that. So they placed him under arrest. But in placing him under arrest, the police officer began using the N-word and said, the reason you're being arrested is because you are a blank. And the real problem with you is the way you were raised. So I received a call from the chief of police, and he shared that information with us. And so we took our executive committee to the chief's office, and he talked about that incident and what occurred. The young man, the police officer was fired. He was terminated. And which is what he should have occurred. But what occurred here is that the San Antonio Police Department wanted to work with us to ensure that there was social justice. We have now received a call from the sheriff's office today, and they indicated they want to meet with us on a monthly basis as well. I have a meeting scheduled with the police chief at UTSA. We are all aware of what occurred at UTSA with the student who put her foot on the desk and was told she had to because she was removed by the police officer at UTSA. That faculty member, I've met with the president of the university as well as one of the vice presidents of the university, and that faculty member has been removed from the classroom.
You know, within the San Antonio Fire Department, we definitely have policies to protect people of color and women. I think what we preach and what's in our culture is we don't care what color you are. We don't care whether you're a Republican, Democrat, tall or short, you have your papers or no papers. We're going to treat everybody with the utmost respect, 100% customer service. And so an example of that is when there was a trailer full of immigrants that they had stopped, and we have the responsibility first to make sure that they are medically cleared. And one of the things that we did is we delayed. We wanted to make sure that they were fed. And so one of my battalion chiefs sent her crew to Whataburger. We bought everybody a meal and let them eat before they then moved on to their next destination. My focus usually is on jobs and recruitment. And so what we do is we go above and beyond to make sure that we have the right numbers in our classes, whether it's females or people of color, because giving someone access to a job is probably the most important thing that any of us can do, and giving them access to a good job is very important for us. So we definitely focus on that.
So we don't necessarily focus on protection in the realm of fire or police, but we, as a supporter of the businesses, offer protection, meaning that we give grants to small businesses, medium-sized businesses on the east side in order to keep their business. So what does that mean? That means they can protect their family by providing for them. That means that they can have a thriving business, and that means that they can have something that's visible from the street that people want to walk into. So we don't necessarily protect in that realm, but we're protecting our community, and we're protecting our community one business at a time.
From the state point of view of protections, first we start in our office, and staff is well trained on expectations. Because I'll tell you, when you have a walk-up office, there's some special kind of people that walk in. But we want to make sure that we respect everybody, we hear out everybody, and we make sure we can address their issues, we will. Also, just having pure awareness of what's going on. I think the biggest part in terms of safety is the laws that we pass and what happens. And one thing I want my community to continue to remember is that when you set laws, you're laying out really the rules of engagement. And so for me, it's about how do we protect people of color, how we protect the women, but also our children and our seniors, our veterans, all of that. The veterans bills were under attack last session. We blocked those things. Always we talk about equal pay for equal work for women. We're looking at those things. We're looking at our mental health issues. So for me, the piece has to do with the written word. And that's how IBES and my office work with the state of Texas to make sure we're not marginalized. You will see small quantities of marijuana cases drop. You will see people that have some challenges. And I don't know if y'all know, but a third of Texans have a record. A third of Texans have a record. So the state of Texas attempted to more or less police everything, and we can't. And when you put a record on a young person, it almost puts a nail in their coffin of success. So my goal is to make sure our young people don't get caught up in an unjust system, and if you're in the system, you can be treated fairly. And that's where I believe I can help most.
Social justice as a newspaper, where do I begin? The main thing that we do is hold those accountable for the injustices that are perpetrated against us. Anybody who knows me probably knows I'm a lot more like Malcolm than I am like Martin, right? And again, if you talk to me privately, I got a whole bunch of ideas that are a lot like Malcolm as opposed to Martin. No disrespect to Dr. King. But for 25 years, and actually next year will be the 25-year anniversary of the San Antonio Observer. When my father first started this paper 25 years ago, he wanted to give a voice to the voiceless. And I think every week that we come out, we have to always keep that in mind. Every time there's a shooting of an unarmed black man, we're the first ones to speak about it, right? You wouldn't even understand the death threats and certain things that you get when you speak out against those in power for oppressing those who don't have a voice. And so when we talk about social justice, in essence, that's what the newspaper is for, to provide that voice for those who can't speak for themselves. So every week, again, we get up and we take criticism, but certain things that happen in our community that happen to us, it affects everybody, regardless of what your political affiliation is or what your ideologies are. Sometimes just being black is a handicap in itself. And so again, when it comes to social justice, every single week when you pick up a paper, there's probably something in there about how we are affected by the inequities of society.
Under housing, here's a question for the panel. And answer it if it pertains to you. If we could save some time, if this doesn't really connect with what you do, just pass the mic. Habitat for Humanity has a strong presence on the west side of San Antonio. Appears to cater more toward Hispanics. So the question is, why isn't there a similar program on the east side of town, where housing needs are similar? Is your office willing to bring a similar housing program to your district and ensure your constituents have access to it?
You know, to attract housing, we've got to be a little bit more open-minded and willing to accept people. So I need to tell y'all the words from what I call behind the door, when you're hearing developers or people who want to possibly do things on the east side. Folks think the east side is hard to work with. They think people are no, rather than the people are welcoming. And as I share with them, really the people want to know. You know, if you're coming into a community, what's your plans? You know, if I've been in my home 50 years and now you want to build a $300,000 home next to me that's going to impact me, I need to know about that. And so we've got to, as a community, be more open, but more deliberate and engaged in the discussions around housing so we can get the things that we need. Y'all see all around this community, things are happening. And so we've got to get engaged a lot more in driving the train rather than keep watching the train go by and then get mad because who's on it. So for me, let's start having those discussions of our needs and let's start promoting those things that we want. The beauty of our life right now, y'all, is all things are possible. Everything we want to do, we can do. But we've got to put in place a desire, a drive, and realize it's a marathon, not a sprint. So it ain't happening overnight. And I know some of our young people are microwave type individuals that want to happen right away. But the reality is, if we work together, stay together, that's why I love this summer tonight, that we can do all the things that we want to do. And guess what? Our young people deserve it. We have a fiduciary responsibility to make this community better than it is.
I just wanted to piggyback off of something that Representative Hawkins said. You know, there's definitely a lot of things happening in the community right now. We see it every single day. All we gotta do is drive up and down the street, east or west, north or south, in District 2, and we see these things. And one of the things that we know that's happening is gentrification, right? Now, the thing about gentrification is there's a fine line between gentrification and progress, right? Gentrification happens, it's negative when the people who are in place are pushed out for financial reasons, right? And they don't have a part in the new things that are happening around them. It's called progress when we're all included in that, right? And so we need to always make sure that we know the distinction between gentrification and progress. Again, progress happens when we're all included in that. We all benefit. Gentrification happens when we just push down and we don't benefit from that. So it's important that we recognize what's actually happening and we stay engaged, as Representative Hawkins says, to make sure that we are part of a process that is happening anyway. The train is rolling. We just got to make sure we're on board with the train. Again, it's a fine line between gentrification and progress. We just want to be on the side of progress and not on the side of gentrification.
You've heard me mention housing already several times. So housing is really, really important to us, and not specifically just because of what's being built and what's happening on the east side, but it's allowing people to age in place, because that's what we want, right? So we had someone come into our office the other day that said, hey, the east side now is an opportunity zone. I'm sure we'll talk about that in a little bit. But an opportunity zone allows for people who have capital gains to come in and purchase property and do whatever they want with it. So someone came in and said, hey, I want to purchase a piece of land on the east side and I want to build a senior center. And I want to have 100 units for our seniors. I said, that's great. That's exactly what we need. This would be perfect for housing. And I said, well, that'd be perfect. How are we going to get that information out? She said, oh, no. It's not for people who live there now. It's for people to come in because of everybody that's wanting to move downtown and everybody wanting to come to the east side. So we have people that are coming in and wanting to build homes. You've dealt with her probably. But wanting to build homes, but not for us and not for the people that are living in this community. So one of the things that we are trying to do is to have that conversation. There is an organization called Cross Timbers that's very similar to Habitat, and they're building those homes. But Sage is trying to lead that discussion and trying to make sure that we're at that leading level of having that housing discussion. So we sit on a housing task force with the city. We are working with different cities like Indianapolis. I'm leaving for Atlanta next week to talk directly about housing. It is a big issue because what happens? Education leads to jobs. Jobs lead to homes. People have to have that. So in order to have that full cycle come around, they have to have homes that people can live in that are adequate, affordable, and appropriate.
More toward the second question, gentrification, but I'm still not hearing more about a similar plan like Habitat for Humanity or something like that.
My vision for housing is to have a $100 million housing bond where half of that money could go towards owner-occupied rehab. If the county can give $100 million to rehab the AT&T Center, then why can't Mr. Jones or Ms. Rodriguez have a piece of the pie? And so in order to do that, I see a small business component because a lot of our businesses could grow their capacity. We could give Greenwood Remodeling $250,000 in contracts in year 1 of a 5-year plan. We could give them $500,000 in year 2, $750,000 in year 3, $1 million in year 4, and $1.5 million in rehab in year 5 of the program, and have a skilled trade construction trade program for jobs for young black men and others in the community to have good paying construction jobs. I'm also fighting to ensure that at the state level, the appraisals and the taxes change. What I believe is we've got to index areas like Dignity and Denver Heights where we see appraisals skyrocketing to inflation, or freeze them for existing property owners and pass it on to the next. I also have been fighting for the abatement policy at the county to change. Right now, we only incentivize the highest rents and highest mortgage. That is wrong. Folks who are working class, folks in the middle class, they also deserve to have additional housing developed. So I'm trying to attack it from all fronts. Today, I actually denied Habitat for Humanity $200,000 from the county and had the support of my court. And that is because the county judge, quite frankly, only wanted to do roof rehab in unincorporated CDBG zones, which is very narrow in terms of territory. I want to be able to have the entire home rehabilitated anywhere that I serve constituents. It shouldn't just be an unincorporated county. You pay county taxes in the city as well, and that's the kinds of things I'm fighting for.
So just quickly on the education question. The question is, the passing of HB3 has added funding to public school districts, teachers and students across the board, knowing in most cases education is absolutely the vehicle out of poverty. In your current role, what specifically are you doing to support education in our community? Any of the panelists, please jump in.
The biggest thing I'm doing is educating people about where the jobs are going to be. And so I'm kind of proselytizing on the fact that people have to make a transition from the industrial economy to the information technology economy. That there are jobs in technology that our folks need to be able to take advantage of. So in my first 10 months in office, I was able to work with the Greater Chamber of Commerce to develop curriculum that was handed off to 15 of our 17 school districts in Bexar County in classes like CompTIA, Network Plus, Security Plus. Don't worry about what all those things stand for, but these are some of the basic computer classes that even a high schooler can take advantage of. I'm working to allocate $20,000 in the Bexar County budget so that the 5 largest high schools in each county commissioner's precinct can have a teacher who's certified to teach these things, so that we don't hire people from out of town for these technology jobs, but our own pipeline of people can benefit from those kinds of jobs. And so I fight every day to try to awaken the community about where the jobs are, not in the future, they're here now. 1/3 of every company now is in technology. And so we've got to make the transition for ourselves, as well as for those coming behind us. And I also just voted and led the court for $155,000 to make community college universal, free for every citizen of Bexar County through a program called the Alamo Promise. That doesn't just mean community college towards a 4-year degree. It also means community college for certifications and skilled trades. So I'm very proud that when they talk about it in Washington, we're actually going to get it done in Bexar County.
NAACP does not have any power, but what we do have is influence. And so our concern is to ensure that when we look at our public schools, when we look at our community colleges, that we have faculty members that are qualified to teach in those areas, that we have board members that reflect us. One correction in my bio, I am no longer a faculty member at St. Philip's College. I did that for 41 years. And so I decided it was time for me to retire. And as a matter of fact, at the last Alamo Community College Board meeting, I made some comments to the board that were I still a faculty member there, I probably wouldn't be any longer. Because we now have a board in the Alamo colleges in which we are the only college district board in the state of Texas that does not have an African American on its board. That's inexcusable. And if we don't have an African American on the board, not because African Americans lost a decision, lost an election, but because of action that was taken by the board. And so in the next 8, and again, now we do not make political endorsements, but we do argue for diversity. And we want diversity in the Alamo College District Board. We want diversity on the Northside Northside School District Board, on the Northeast School District Board, etc. We want diversity. We think that on each college district board, each school district board, in each school district, there should be faculty members, there should be staff members that look like the students they're teaching. We know statistically students do better and are more successful when they have individuals that are in front of their classroom that look like they do.
You know, people may not want to hear it, but college ain't for everybody. And so on the fire department side, you know, one of the things that we've made sure of is that you just got to have a high school diploma or GED to get a great job with the fire department. And so we know that we'll train the people to do the job. And it's a lot of training and it's intensive. But having some kind of trade is very important. And one of the ways that we try to increase and impact the communities with our mentorship programs. And so you can have all of these great programs there, but a lot of times the young men and women don't know about them. They just read about it. It's not enough. We have to take one and teach one. And so we have created programs similar to ROTC for the fire service in high schools. So we've got Edison High School, Brandeis High School. We're starting to expand that, where when these young men and women graduate, they'll already have an EMT certification, they'll already have a fire certification, and then we can fast track them into fire service jobs throughout the state. And so for us, you know, we really do believe that, you know, there's enough opportunity there, and if we just embrace it and actively recruit from our target audiences, we have a great impact.
So when we know that those businesses are coming into the east side, we know that we need to talk with them and have those services come. So it's a perfect example, Velocity TX, which is coming right up the street. They're expecting to have 700 jobs. Do we have the education for those jobs? They are hoping to hire on the east side. Do we have our students have the curriculum to be able to get those jobs? Because they're right out of high school. Their starting pay is going to be $30,000 to $50,000. Can our students get those jobs? So we are focusing on having those discussions. So St. Philip's, all of the schools, Sam Houston, in our area on the east side, we're working with to make sure they have the curriculum.
Education is my game. The reality is this, what I've done, I was a big supporter and helped get across the finish line at HB3, which put anywhere from $400 to $1,000 more per student in each of the districts. So San Antonio ISD this coming year will receive $37 million more, not adding anything else, but because of the allotments that was made. Our retired teachers get the 13th check for the first time. And now I'm working on seeing how we can get a cost of living from henceforward, not just a one-time thing. We made the teacher retirement more stable, more actuarially sound, whereas before we were concerned about the longevity of it. Now it is sound. So we've done, through my office, a lot of things in education, micro-credentialing. I passed a bill last session that allows an individual who have experience in their trade for at least 7 years can participate in a 200-hour training program and become a certified teacher. Because I want to make sure the people who have the skills, the hands-on knowledge, can start teaching our kids, not those who are just what I call A students in college, but people who really know how to walk the walk and talk to our children. Also, I've been working on bleeding control kit, making sure that all of our youngsters from 7th grade to 12th grade know how to stop someone from bleeding out. And so I put a lot of effort into education because I believe it is truly a vehicle of priority. And finally, along the list, I can tell you what I've been doing. What's most important was I secured a grant from Toyota and worked with a certification program. We identified 13 African American men and put them through a alternative teacher certification, and 11 of them finished and became teachers. Guess what? These young brothers never thought they could be a teacher, because most of our community thinks if you're a teacher, you're a geek, you know, or you're exceptionally smart. So now we've got 11 young brothers walking through these halls, and I plan to do that every year, fund the program. Think about it, our athletes, they graduate. Only so many gonna go to college, and only so many gonna go to the pros. And there's a whole long line of others who don't know what to do, and no one's advising them. So when you bring them in and you talk about them becoming educators, an area that they never thought about, it changes the game. And so for me, education is everything, and I'm gonna continue to work in that capacity.
Well, our last topic is economic development. It's something very dear to my heart because I think that, and I know this, that if people are able to have a good income to take care of themselves and their families, a lot of these issues we would not be dealing with in the way that we are. So my final question to the panelists is this. What initiatives, and I don't think I'm going to ask that question because I think you really have answered what you do that impacts the community, but this will be my question. Do you believe that there should be a local Black agenda that's specifically geared toward economic prosperity? And what role, if so, could you play in helping to make that a sustainable program?
It might be wishful thinking on my part, but you know, I remember a day and looking around this room, I know that several of you probably remember this day too. You know, I was a little boy when all this was going on, but I remember when the Black community was self-sufficient. Right? We didn't have to go outside of our community to get our needs met. And so when we talk about a Black agenda, should there be a local Black agenda? I think we should just get back to where we started at, right? When they told us we couldn't go to school, what did we do? I graduated from Houston Tillotson. We went and started our own schools, right? When they told us we couldn't go to doctors, well, what did we do? We started becoming doctors ourselves. We couldn't get legal representation, well, we started becoming lawyers. You know, I think that as a community, as a people, we've gotten so dependent on other people, and then we hold them accountable when they don't want to give us something that we can get on our own. So I honestly believe that if we just get back, you know, at one point in time we were slaves. We didn't have anything. And we got a lot now. Right? We still have a lot further to go, but I think that just becoming more self-sufficient and leaning on each other in our community a lot more instead of looking for handouts from other people. You know, we step up to the plate, we start taking care of home, and when I look out in this room, I think everybody in this family. You know, and I think we should go back to start taking care of one another a little bit more than what we actually do.
The answer is yes, we need a Black agenda, and here's why. Focus. The key to success is focus, okay? And so we're not saying we exclude everybody else, or we're not saying be racist or prejudiced. We don't want to do those things we accuse others of doing. What a Black agenda means to me is that we're more deliberate and intentional in what we do. Like I said earlier, identifying cohorts of young people. We've got these cybersecurity jobs coming. We've got so many jobs coming in this community, it's just unbelievable. We gotta get our young people ready. So for me, the main Black agenda for us is how do we get our young people ready for these new jobs, all of these opportunities that are out there. We've got at least over the next 10 years, billions of dollars being spent in the city of San Antonio to land milk and honey. Are we ready, and are we preparing our young people to take advantage of it? So as we get into our discussion, one of the things I want us to leave here with tonight is the how. I think we all know what we need. The key is how do we get there? How do we move the needle? How do we make sure people have information? How do we connect people to opportunities? We got many silos of excellence. Now we need a unity fest that's focusing around what African Americans need, which may be different from what others need.
Listen, we are limited with microphones, and I think all of you who want to address the panel need to use the microphone so all of us can hear. I'm going to leave it here, so we're going to address, if you could come around and come up this aisle here, we appreciate it. I've been reminded to tell you to make sure you ask a question. Sometimes we want to go around the world and questions way at the end. Our time is limited, so please come with a question that we can address.
The constitutional amendments are phrased such that a regular person like me would find it very difficult to understand some of them, especially if it's my first journey to the polling booth, and the equipment is going to be new this year, and we want to decrease the anxiety and increase the education. And so would you please address how you want to get that in the newspaper so our community will know before they get to the booth what the constitutional amendments are, and like a translation of what it means in a regular person's terms. My name is Maria Stevenson Green, and I'm a vice member of the San Antonio branch member of the ACT.
Okay, just so everybody knows, the Observer or the publishing company is just one of several businesses that we have as a family. I don't do the day-to-day operations of it. My publisher actually does, but that is definitely something that is of immense concern, I think, to a lot of people, especially when it comes to voting. So one thing that I'll tell everybody is if things like that, we do have an open door policy. I will definitely bring that up to my wife, who is our publisher, and bring that to her attention. If you could take the extra step, if you don't mind, young lady, and just call our news office and bring that to her attention, and she will be more than happy to look into that, because that is definitely an issue that needs to be addressed. And I think a lot of times, it's just so we know, a lot of times when we put articles in the paper, I gotta tell some of my writers, because they're very, very educated. A lot of them are a lot smarter than I am. But I gotta tell them, dumb it down a little bit, because I don't even understand what you're saying. And I know a lot of people in the community may not understand what you're saying, but that is definitely an excellent question, and one that I will definitely bring back to the staff.
I'm going to be very brief. For 40 years, I've been community activist. Charles Williams knows, and Gary Houston knows that this is the first time I've seen where we have our black elected officials with our appointed officials coming together and saying I'm sorry, y'all, I've been really ill. But here's one thing I want to know. I'm only sorry that Ms. Jane Sullivan's not here, because the city needs its representation here too, and she's not. And my question relates to all of you and the city. There are 15 top employees in the city manager's office. There are 20 top officials in the police department. There are 30 top lawyers in the city attorney's office. And I'm sad to report, not even a coffee girl among them. Not one black person. Everybody loves Eric Walsh, the new city manager. But his engagement is over.
All right, we get the questions.
And the question is, what will you do collectively to address Eric Walsh about the fact that we live in 2019, not 1948?
The best way to address the areas of gaps we have is come together collectively. Like you said, Jane, this is the first time we've sat down at the table collectively and have conversations. But it takes the community to put us in this spot. So don't say, y'all go do it, but be engaged yourself and have certain expectations. And as I said earlier, we can do anything we want to do, but we've got to work together, and we've got to be committed to do it, and we've got to focus on making it happen.
Good evening, my name is Langston Carpenter. I'm an assistant professor at the University of Texas at San Antonio in the College of Education. I've been here 4.5 years, and since my first year until now, there are only 2 young black professionals that I know that are representing me. So my question is in what ways do you all proposed that we onboard young Black professionals so that they can gain the social capital necessary to fill some of these positions that people are complaining about. There's a lack of representation in some of the issues affecting Black communities. Thank you.
Having started the NAACP branch at my university, at Tufts University, and been the political director of the Pan-African Alliance there, as well as on the board of trustees and a former teacher. One of the things that I think is important is let's work together to have a socially supportive group. I think we ought to have some mixers where young professionals, African American, can support each other, network with each other, and hopefully make them feel less isolated. I'd be happy to host and put up the money for the hors d'oeuvres and things of that nature. Okay, yeah, and so I think that's really important. It's just not to feel on an island when you're in San Antonio, and to know that there is a Black community, that is a great community that you can connect with. And so I'd ask that the faith-based community connect with us and those young professionals and the civic organizations, because they do want those folks in, but sometimes when you get on that far northwest side, there's a bit of isolation from connecting with the density of it. And the other thing is, I think you have at the University of Texas at San Antonio, he happens to have gone to my university, and I've had a chance to build a relationship with Dr. Amy, the new president of UTSA, and I think he is a more progressive president than perhaps they've had in a while. And I think we have to challenge the community, the academic leadership at UTSA to make a special effort, whether it is prizes for innovation for professors who are of color, or whether it is retreats or just things that help them in their professional skill development to become better professors and incentivize their stay here in San Antonio. So there are many things I hope we can do together.
I've met with Dr. Anderson on your campus as well. We have a NAACP chapter on the UTSA campus. And a group of those students, 8 of them, are going to our state convention, and the San Antonio branch is sponsoring them to do that. In the San Antonio branch in NAACP, we also have a young adults committee in which they're doing precisely what you suggested. But what I will tell you is that if you give us a call, we will let you know. I'll find out by tomorrow what time event is going to take place. And we invite you to participate in that, because we understand. I'm not young anymore, but I was a young professor. I had this huge afro. It was some time ago.
I have 2 questions, but I believe they're germane to each other, so hopefully it's not too much of a tangent. And so I asked myself, why is there not an East Side Chamber of Commerce? So how can we advocate for better transportation, specifically rail, from San Antonio to Austin?
But remember, when you talk about rail, you talk about a lot of land space, and there may be some eminent domain issues that come up. Right. So even though, it's wonderful and we're going to move in that direction, we've got to look at the overall picture, and that is the taking of people's land that they may have had for hundreds of years, and that won't be easy. The other thing is the will of the people has to dictate what happens. And so when we look at trying to bring, I'll call it fast cars and fast moving trains, we've got to look at what has happened. In San Antonio, it has not been favorable. And so we've got to look at that. And then quickly I want to say I'm for engaging our young people, not just in TSA, but also preachers. I need some of your young people to sing at churches. We need to do some mix and matching and stuff. And we need to create, some social events that our young people can participate in, so we can keep them here and keep them out.
I have to speak to this because I worked at the San Antonio Chamber of Commerce for 8 years, and so that really was a thing for me as well. All of the chambers that you mentioned, there are actually 21 chambers of commerce in San Antonio. We have 1.8 million people that live here. There's not a need for that. But if you look at the number of chambers of commerce, there's a Black chamber, and there's now Alamo City Black Chamber. So we have 2. It might not specifically say East Side, but we do have 2. We have been talking and trying to get some of that engagement and things happening with the chambers. We want to make sure all of that happens as well. So my organization, I know specifically with our board, are trying to figure out things that we can do, and not necessarily creating a whole nother chamber of commerce, but enhancing the ones that we have.
So Stephen, there were 3 elections that failed on rail. Part of it was the city leaders had bad plans. The last plan that failed, it failed because the rail line was not in places where traffic congestion was. So it was really the special interests of the owner of the Pearl who wanted the route to run from the Pearl District into King William. And if we had had a rail plan that said, let's take from 1604 and 35 into downtown San Antonio, or 281 and 1604 into San Antonio, or IH-10 and 1604 into downtown San Antonio. If that had been the impetus for rail, I think it actually would have passed for a lot of folks where the voters and density of traffic congestion are. The other thing I would say is that we are also looking at some of the old methods of rail. The best method, in my humble opinion, for connecting Austin to San Antonio is actually the technology that Elon Musk, the owner of Tesla, has created, which is the hyperlink. And Representative Barbara Griffin Hawkins, the hyperlink relies on a royalty method rather than a condemnation method, meaning in Texas, folks, because of the oil industry, are used to having royalties for their land. So the hyperlink, which is a magnetic capsule, if you will, that goes 600 miles an hour, can take 12,000 people to between San Antonio and Austin, gets you at 600 miles an hour, gets you to Austin from San Antonio in 12 minutes. And he has an office. They have an office in the Rand building downtown. They're testing this technology at the University of Mississippi on the track. I think we have to skip, frankly, over the past technologies and move into the future. And I think those kinds of technologies will help get rail here in San Antonio if it's done where the congestion is.
You had indicated earlier that everyone is not really a college student, prepare for college or should go to college. And I'm certainly in agreement with that, although I am an educator. But my question to you is there a recruit in the Sam Houston High School, which is basically one of our main high schools here in District 2 and on the east side of San Antonio? Are there recruits from your department in that particular school for the fire department?
No, there's not anybody in Sam Houston at this time. There has been conversation as far as starting what I mentioned, which was kind of an ROTC program, a Fire Explorer program in Sam Houston. That has not got off the ground yet, but there has been discussion about it. But what we do have in our recruitment department, we have 90% of them are African Americans, and they are engaging folks at career fairs in those different areas, and at St. Philip's College and different places like that. But I mentioned that we had that Fire Explorer program in Edison and in Brandeis, and so we do have to get the next one in a school that serves majority African American.
Well, my comment to you, we do have students in Sam Houston who look like me, and so I sure would like to see you recruit in that venue, please.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
I'm Pastor Jewish of Israelite issues that project is my concern or development of the east side. I'm concerned about the development because the development is for the developer. It's not for the residents of the east side. The developers come in and take a little square piece of property and put 3 or 4 stories on it when they paid $35,000, and then that same property that was bought for $35,000 now costs $250,000. Then the next door neighbor, after his taxes goes up. I'm concerned about that. Not only am I concerned about that, I'm concerned about putting $350 million in a 5-block area. I think that is a waste of our money. When the rest of our question, and the question is why are we allowing this to happen? I applaud this kind of effort. We need more of it. But my question mostly is to the developer. Why is this happening when our residents don't receive nothing from the development? They've been pushed out of their homes.
The legislature passed a tax relief bill for cities. I believe that anybody help me out there. It's actually in use in Dallas. Now, I had heard some conflicting information. I think it's a neighborhood, some sort of zone that allows your taxes, your property taxes for gentrifying areas to be frozen for some time, for 5 years. Is it a neighborhood empowerment zone? Okay. So the neighborhood empowerment zone needs to be implemented in San Antonio on the east side so that taxes can be frozen. Now, it actually needs to be frozen for longer than 5 years. Those are legislative fixes that the legislature needs to take up. Probably 10 to 15 years, or at least you look at it every 5 years with the ability to do it past 15 years. I had heard that it was for cities less than 900,000, which would exclude some of the areas in the state of Texas that have the greatest gentrification happening. So those things, if that's true, and I'll ask my assistant, Dr. Bouchard, let's look into it tomorrow because we need it yesterday for the kinds of things that are happening. So I agree with you in terms of, the benefit has been mainly for those from the outside, and that is why I've been trying to fight for property tax freezes, why I've been trying to fight for rehab for those who have endured through crime and blight and all kinds of issues in the east side, and we have to continue to fight together.
Last two, because of Governor Powell, in closing remarks and then final remarks, and thanks to Bethel and Pastor for allowing us to come here.
Good evening, panel. My name is Pastor Sheila from Great Lawn Tabernacle in New Jersey. I'm on the board of Chrysalis Ministries, and you all mentioned jobs. My question is, will those jobs assist or be able to be our men and women that are coming out of prison? Will they be able to obtain any of those jobs?
The Reentry Council of Bexar County, and on October the 23rd, we have the Second Chance Job Fair for the formerly incarcerated. When I came into office, Commissioner Atkinson asked me to take good care of that particular effort that he began. They had 240 employers who would hire the formerly incarcerated. My commitment was to double that by the end of my first term. We have over 1,000 companies that will hire the formerly incarcerated. The benefit is that list is growing. So we are changing the culture from a culture that threw people away and said lock them up and throw away the key to a culture of reintegration, love, and acceptance. And so we want you to send folks to the Second Chance Job Fair at the Coliseum, 9 to 12. Everybody on probation is going to be going. We even have folks coming out of Three Rivers. They'll be there in the jumpsuits, but we're happy that they're going to be there. Because if they have a job when they come out, they're not going to be doing things, but like they used to be doing. So we have definite, we also have a reentry center 2 blocks from the jail, 222 Comal. This community doesn't know. Anybody who is trying to reintegrate, we have about 100 nonprofits that are able to be in the reentry center and other connecting services are part of that 2 blocks from the jail. So we're doing a lot, and you can follow on my County Commissioner Facebook page. Just follow me and you'll see the flyers for the Second Chance Job Fair.
Job opportunities are out here for our second chances. Because of the great need, many companies have lessened their standards and are looking for folks. The thing that we need in our community, though, is more advocacy and also holding people's hand and introducing them to people. We cannot forget one thing, when someone who looks like us comes to look for a job, there's a perception. Okay? We as leaders, what our jobs can do is help open those doors. So let's get away from what ain't available. It's available. We're working together, talking up to each other, making referrals. That's what we need right now.
My name is Michelle Washington, and I'm really interested in working with individuals in employment, with individuals with severe disabilities. And transportation is a big gap in San Antonio for them. And in particular, the veteran population, it's not happening. It's very, very difficult, and they're losing their homes. So is there something we can do where we can, in the future, I mean, because right now it's happening. Homes are being taken away from veterans.
What has happened in our community overall, is opportunities are there. We're not connecting the dots. We're not drawing the path to the success. So even when we talk about transportation, everything is so defined. So you got the city, they go to a certain point. And the people from the county, from ACOG, can't pick you up unless you get to a certain place. Working together, identifying community needs. What our job is as leaders is to help create those conversations, open up those pathways, so when we have challenges like this. Because there could be a small intermodal company that can pick up wheelchairs and veterans and people with disabled. But if we're not saying anything, guess what happens? Nothing. Okay? So for me, our job as a community is to sit down and work together. And I believe this, and I'm gonna challenge this committee here on this at this table, that we come together, we sit down, we have a forum where we can address issues that our community has, and let's start fixing some of this stuff. I'm tired of talking, y'all. It's time to start fixing some of these things that are broken. But we need that in you. And Reverend Brown, here's what we need. As a young man in this community and as a man of God, here's what we need. We've got to have a place, kind of like a resource center, that our folks can come to. I see so many young people who buy homes for payday lending that they wind up losing because of the interest rate, because they don't know any better. Okay? We've got to educate our people from the bottom to the top. And we've got to just stop talking about it. But we need leadership in this community that brings those conversations together. Guess what? Let's set 5 goals a year. In 5 years, we've accomplished 25 things. So my hope is that we leave here with the leadership of our faith-based community to take us to the promised land.
Via Metropolitan Transit is going to be going for another 8-cent tax to fund the whole Via Transit system. That tax is going to come because the land we've been buying for the aquifer preservation bit, they're going to get that land, I think, from the River Authority. So right now, Via, which has Via Trans, which transports those who have disabilities, could be expanded, but I haven't heard in the new mobility plans that the disabled and those who want to be working, who happen to have a disability, are included in that. So what I would encourage you to do is connect with former Councilman Ray Saldana, who is the chairman of the VIA board. He has a heart of gold. He has a heart for the least among us. And I believe by working with him as well as the rest of the board to put this on the VIA board agenda, as well as the mayor and council, and the commissioner's court for that matter. We appoint a few folks on the VIA board, but there's going to be an election to put more money into public transportation in VIA. And the communities that you're championing should be a part of that. So start now. Henry Cisneros is one of the chairs of this committee, Jane Macon, and I think there may be one more that I'm forgetting, but that's how you can affect change for that community.
There is a veterans ministry at our church, and we're proud of it. It meets once monthly when it's in session. And some of the issues that our veterans do not know about, it helps connect them to things that are going on, benefits that are for them, and all of that. But contact, applaud our panel. You get all of them 50 seconds, 30 seconds to give a final closing comment.
I expect that any one of us individually up here, or any one of you in the audience can make any significant difference is that's not feasible. But I think together we can really start making some significant differences in this community. My fear is that, because I've been to a lot of forums like this, a lot of meetings, a lot is said, and I'm gonna piggyback off of Representative Hawkins, because I think she took my closing remarks. Too often times we come here with that feel-good feeling, it's that kumbaya moment, and as soon as we leave, we just forget about it. It was a waste of time, it was just a bunch of talk. So I'm gonna take Representative Hawkins up on her challenge with the rest of my panel members here, and I would encourage you to do the same thing, that we need to meet regularly to start coming up with concrete solutions to some of these problems that are plaguing our community. But again, I really appreciate getting in the presence of these fine individuals. I think we have a good crop of black leadership in San Antonio that we can build on. I think we need to focus on some of our young people in the future so we can maintain that. But again, let's not just keep everything in this room. Let's make some significant things happen. Thank you again.
When you think we're not working together, many times we are, and I want to thank you for your leadership in bringing us together. We have to continue that. And I think this panel, with many of you, it needs to be expanded when we have those conversations. We also forgot Edwards Aquifer Authority and some other kinds of boards and institutions that are very important to the prosperity. I just want to say that when you are the Jackie Robinson of anything, but first, African American, it is never easy. And I may make it look easy to be county commissioner, but I assure you, there are insults hurled at me, there are disrespects that are done to me, and from time to time, I will need this community to come back and help me push the things over the edge that you need to get done. And those things are coming soon, and very soon. So when we call you, it's because we need you. Thank you very much for being here.
I'm ready to work. I'm ready to work. It is truly our time. Think about it. Nationally, you're hearing more about African American issues. Okay? The resources are here in our own back door. We now have to put the infrastructure in place to make things happen. So let's make a commitment tonight, not just Pastor Brown, but all of us, to work together to make a better life for our children and our children's children. Let's do that. Thank you.
We had a theme last year, defeat hate, vote. And so that's what we're going to ask you to do, to vote. And the theme this year is when we fight, we win. And again, you know, it's what we need to do. We need to vote, and we need to ensure that we're fighting together as a unit. There's strength in our unity, and that is we're not fighting among each other.
Right.
Okay, so this panel tonight, this group tonight, helps us to break some of the silos that we've had. And hopefully that will continue, and we will continue to work together.
And so there is a lot of talk, and I'm trying to stay focused on what our representatives and commissioners and everybody talk about, because we have to do that. But at the end of the day, I believe that the vast majority of our problems stem from City Hall not respecting African Americans in the East Side. And so till we decide to attack that head on and get them to devote the resources, not just talk about them, but devote the resources. An example that I will give is when there was individuals who were the super contractors. We had an individual that I supported for mayor that said, let's add some more individuals so we can get some more minorities to be some of those super contractors, and City Hall said no. So till such time as we do those things that are necessary to make City Hall respect us, I will be part of the solution at all times, and I'll try to do my part, but I have a personal belief that until we take care of that, it's not going to get better.
I think that it's important for everybody in this room to understand that everybody in this room can make a difference. There's people in here that have those programs that you've been asking questions about. Beverly Watts Davis with West Care, Jordan Key has programs. Our neighborhood associations has programs. We have them, we just don't know about them. So we have to do a better job of sharing that information and having one place where it's a resource, where it's a resource bank, and we can get all of that information, because there are people in this room that can answer any of those questions. So we are hoping that our organization, SAGE, can be that body, that can be that collective impact partner to get all this information out, because the information isn't any good if we don't share it. So I hope we continue to have these conversations, and I'm looking forward to working with this panel the rest of the year and years to come.
Mary Dennis, little Mary. Let's give her a closing word. I don't need one.
Pastor Brown, I just want to say thank you to the panelists, thank you for your time, and thank you all for being here, because this wouldn't have been possible without an audience, so thank you for being here. My closing words will be, because I lost an election and my vote by 2, please register and go vote. All right, and thank you again for the opportunity to serve. God bless you all.
Let's show some love on Mary. Can we show some love on the Bethel AME Church and the staff here, Pastor Solomon, thank you for opening the door. Let me bring our closing up, the march of prayer from the interim chairman of the D2, so I could call it the D2 Strong Movement, Pastor Patrick Jones.
Thank everyone for coming. Thank all of our panel. I know there's one face that everybody wants to see sitting here that is not here, and that's our District 2 representative. Amen, I'm gonna say it. Should have been here. Y'all shoot them a text message, an email, give them a phone call, and let them know, don't be afraid of accountability. They should be here, they should be held accountable just like all of our other leaders. So we look forward to working with you all and moving this train forward. Let's stand and we're going to close out in prayer. Let's pray. Lord, we thank you for all that you've done. We pray that you would put your arms around us all one by one and then collectively bind this group together. They continue to give leadership to the greater San Antonio community. It's not all about the east side, but it's about your people everywhere. So we pray, oh God, and just say thank you for all that you've done and the things that you're going to do. In Jesus' name, amen.